In this video, I'm going to share with you the opening of the 100 Days of Taps in Gettysburg. Alright everybody, in this video I'm going to share my experience with the opening of the 100 Days of Taps in Gettysburg. The 100 Days of Taps starts on Memorial Day and it goes through 100 days later. In the Soldiers National Cemetery, they have a bugler or two or more each evening who plays taps. Well, this particular night for the opening, it was a little longer than I've ever experienced before. So they had a bunch of different speakers and so forth, and I wasn't prepared for that. I just took the small little handheld camera for photos. It also records video. And so partway through, the battery died. So I had to quickly switch over to my cell phone. So I did miss some pieces of it. I apologize to anybody who got cut out accidentally for that. But here you go. Hope you enjoy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the 7th year of 100 Nights of Taps, Gettysburg, on this somber Memorial Day of May 29th, 2023. My name is John Tuskin. I'm the historian archivist with the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania, and I am serving as tonight's MC. Tonight, we honor and mourn the brave individuals who have died performing their duties while serving in the United States Armed Forces. The 100 Nights of Taps Gettysburg is sponsored by the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania and the Gettysburg National Military Park in partnership with Taps for Veterans and the Gettysburg Licensed Battlefield Guide. I would like to thank the many wonderful musicians here this evening. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies. They are under the direction of Yari Villanueva, who you'll hear more from later. And they're providing the beautiful music for tonight's program. If you are able, please stand and face the flag for the national anthem. be seated. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce Harper Jane Lusky. Here's Harper Jane. Harper Jane Lusky just completed first grade year at James Geddes Elementary School. Her hobbies include ballet, gymnastics, soccer, and art. She loves reading and learning, and her favorite historical figure is none other than Abraham Lincoln. Harper Jane's 4 times great-grandfather, Private Thomas Ryan, was severely wounded while fighting at the Battle of Gettysburg with the 147th New York on July 1st, 1863, near the famed railroad cut. That's less than a mile from where Harper Jane now lives with her mom, dad, and little sister, Red. Harper Jane will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Harper Jane. Now I'm very pleased, immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Ashley Whitehead Lusky. Dr. Lusky is a board member of the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania, Assistant Director of the Civil War Institute at Gettysburg College, and of course, Harper Jane's mom. Dr. Lusky.
Thank you. One of the chief features of our 100 Nights of TAPS Gettysburg is to educate. 100 Nights of TAPS Gettysburg strives to provide a profound educational experience for our visitors. On our TAPS logo, we feature the words inform, inspire, involve. Yet we cannot inform, we cannot inspire, we cannot involve without educating the visitor about how it was that this place came to exist in the first place, about who it is that rests under the stones surrounding us for eternity, and about why it is that this place and the actions of those individuals still matter so deeply nearly 160 years later. Here at 100 Nights of TAPS Gettysburg, we want to inform the visitors about the history of Gettysburg National Cemetery. We want to inspire the visitors with the sounding of taps in this historic environment. We want to involve the visitors by having them actively participate in the program and ensuring that those who have served our nation are recognized. At one of his final speeches in October of 1963, just 1 month before his assassination, President John F. Kennedy stated, "A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, by the men it remembers." We are here tonight, and for the next 99 nights, to honor and to remember. By educating, we inform. By informing, we inspire. By inspiring, we involve. By involving, we honor. And by honoring, we remember. And when we unite around that remembrance, our nation reveals itself at its very best. Thank you. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce both a wonderful friend and an expert scholar who just happens to be delivering our keynote address tonight. Dr. Michelle A. Crowell is the Civil War and Reconstruction Specialist in the Manuscript Division at the Library of Congress. She received a BA in History from the University of California, Riverside, and an MA and PhD in History from the University of California, Berkeley. She is the author of several articles and books on topics related to the Civil War, as well as Quantico, Virginia, and the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. She has worked as a library assistant at the Historical Society of Washington, D.C., an assistant professor at Northern Virginia Community College, and is a research assistant for historian Doris Kearns Goodwin. Please welcome Dr. Michelle Crowell.
Thank you very much. Touch any aspect of the address and you touch a mystery. That statement by David C. Mearns, an Abraham Lincoln scholar and former chief of the Manuscript Division at the Library of Congress, remains as true of the Gettysburg Address today as when he wrote it in 1964. For a document as well known and as minutely analyzed as the Gettysburg Address, there is still so much that we do not know about it and its delivery in this cemetery 160 years ago this year. Now, while we can be confident that Lincoln did not write the Gettysburg Address on the back of an envelope on the train ride to Gettysburg, when did he write the address? Did he, as we suspect, complete a draft in Washington and then change the ending on the morning of the cemetery dedication while staying at the David Wills house on the square? If so, was it a journey to the battlefield that morning that inspired new concluding remarks? If so, what happened to that second page with Lincoln's original ending? What text did Lincoln have with him on the platform at the cemetery? One of the two earliest known surviving copies, which are now at the Library of Congress, or another handwritten copy, which we have not yet discovered? Did he wear his glasses and read from the text from a manuscript? Or did he recite it from memory? How did the crowd react? Did they applaud enthusiastically or remain largely silent? Or did they respond in another way? What did Lincoln think of his address and its reception? Did he have any inkling of its staying power over the decades? These are just a few of the questions we now ask, and for which answers are elusive, largely because by the time Lincoln's Gettysburg Address became the iconic text recited by millions of school children, and the Civil War generation began re-examining that era, the memories of those present had either faded or differed remarkably. The continuing mystery of the Gettysburg Address, however, means that opportunities still to learn more about the document, its creation, the circumstances of its delivery, how it was received by the public, and its long-term legacy. The same can be said about Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War era. There is still so much to learn and discover, whether one has been steeped in Civil War history for a lifetime or just starting out on their journey. And this is where the preeminent collections of the Library of Congress can be of assistance. The library offers a range of period newspapers, for example, through which you can understand how the news of the day circulated nationally and internationally, and how that news was interpreted differently depending on the region of the country the paper was published and the political leanings of the respective audience. Reading Civil War newspapers proves very quickly that the press biases we often lament today are nothing new. You might start with the different press reports and editorial comments on the Gettysburg Address, the cemetery dedication, and Lincoln's remarks. Spend some time online with the library's Chronicling America website to get a taste of 19th century reporting, and you'll see what I mean. Or visit the Prints and Photographs Division online catalog to explore photographs and political cartoons of the Civil War era. You will see how famous faces and figures of the day like Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Clara Barton, and military commanders on both sides of the war presented themselves for the camera. But through the Lillianquist family collection of Civil War photographs, you will also gaze at the faces of everyday soldiers and sailors, who had their likenesses taken for loved ones or for posterity, and many of whom never returned. You will see numerous women who volunteered as nurses and who were surrounded by disease and horrific wounds. You will see an African-American soldier wearing a Lincoln campaign button, posing with his wife and 2 daughters, all of whom were witnessing the intersection of the worlds of slavery and freedom. And you too can zoom in on some of the few existing glass plate negative photographs of the Gettysburg Cemetery dedication ceremony that recently allowed a professional animator and Lincoln enthusiast to triangulate the location of the platform from which Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address. In this case, the marriage of 19th century primary sources and 21st century technology brought us closer to solving at least one mystery about the Gettysburg Address. The Library of Congress also offers the personal papers of Civil War participants, both well-known and unfamiliar. You can read the correspondence of Generals William Tecumseh Sherman and George B. McClellan, and the diaries of Secretary of the Navy Gideon Welles. In Ulysses S. Grant's papers, you can follow his military operations in his headquarters record books, or read Grant's personal letters to his beloved wife, Julia. You may be surprised to read that the steely-eyed general often signed his letters, "Love and kisses to you and the children." But you can also access the pocket diaries of many soldiers in the field, including Samuel J. Gibson of Pennsylvania, whose service took a harrowing turn when he was captured and imprisoned at the notorious Confederate POW camp at Andersonville. Or follow Confederate sympathizer Betty Herndon Maury's diary entries as she and her family navigated life as refugees in Virginia and observed significant changes to the comfortable life they once knew. Or read how a lack of literacy complicated the marriage of soldier John C. Arnold and his wife Mary Ann, as he craved news from home and she struggled to keep the household running while also finding friends and neighbors who would read and write letters on her behalf. Or discover how Union veterans who lost the use of their right arms during the war interpreted their sacrifice and learned to adapt to their disability through the left-hand penmanship entries they submitted to a contest run by newspaper editor William Olin Bourne. All of the resources I've just mentioned have been digitized by the Library of Congress and are freely available online for anyone to use. Some are accompanied by transcriptions generated by volunteers who have contributed to our By the People crowdsourcing project, which endeavors to make online Library of Congress resources more discoverable and accessible than ever before. But what is online only represents the tip of the iceberg of the phenomenal Civil War resources available to the public through the Library of Congress. And we acquire new items and collections year after year, which allows us to bring to light more individual experience as well. Every item adds one more piece of the puzzle as we endeavor to see the whole picture of the Civil War. That includes the items in the Abraham Lincoln papers. Original materials in this collection are available online in high-resolution, full-color scans. Between transcriptions provided by the Lincoln Studies Center at Knox College and by the People volunteers, the collection is transcribed and keyword searchable. There is so much to explore on this website, including David Wills's invitation to Abraham Lincoln to provide, quote, few appropriate remarks at the cemetery dedication, as well as Wills's personal invitation to Lincoln to stay at his home on the square, given the anticipated crowds for the event. You can read Edward Everett's November 20th letter to Lincoln, just the day after the cemetery dedication, justly praising the president that, quote, I should be glad if I could flatter myself that I came as near to the central idea of the occasion in 2 hours as you did in 2 minutes. And of course, you can view in minute detail both the Nicolay and Hay copies of the Gettysburg Address, which were donated to the Library of Congress in 1916 by the surviving children of Abraham Lincoln's Secretary John Hay. What will you see for the first time when examining these documents for yourselves? While there are still many mysteries about Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address and its delivery, there is one thing that I know for sure. Lincoln's words still resonate strongly today. On the occasions when we display a handwritten copy of the Gettysburg Address at the Library of Congress, people linger. It is not just the attraction of seeing a famous document that stops them in their tracks. They often stay for a while and read the familiar words. Sometimes they return more than once to view the document again and read again. Abraham Lincoln tended to write beautifully, but also in plain language, so that all listeners or readers could understand his meaning. As a result, his words remain accessible and understandable now. I see the look of awe and inspiration on the faces of these visitors, who sometimes have a difficult time tearing themselves away. These encounters restore my faith that words matter and tell me that Lincoln's words about the American experience and experiment still strike a chord all these years later. During the American Civil War, Abraham Lincoln and the soldiers buried around us gave their last full measure of devotion. That was their gift to future generations, and it is up to us to ensure that these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you, musicians. Beautiful. It is now my privilege and honor to introduce Lieutenant General Christopher F. Birney, U.S. Air Force, retired. General Birney was the 17th Judge Advocate General of the Air Force. Following the lead of his father, a highly decorated World War II 8th Air Force veteran, he was commissioned in 1983, retiring from active duty as a 3-star general after 35 years of service. He is a 2-time recipient of the Air Force Distinguished Service Medal. As the Air Force's top uniformed lawyer, General Birney served as a legal advisor to the Secretary of the Air Force and the Air Force.
General Douglas MacArthur said the answer comes down to 3 words: duty, honor, country. These 3 hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying point to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith, to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. When I attend a military funeral at Arlington, I am moved by the chaplain's eulogy, the quiet cry of the grieving spouse, and the crisp 21-gun salute. The moment that embraces all of that, and all of us, though, is the sounding of taps. Tap somehow immediately connects us to our fallen comrade in arms and to one another. As the bugler sounds that haunting melody, as its notes gently reverberate from headstone to hillside, we are at that moment somehow at peace. And yet, our soul is stirred for the fallen. It remains not only fitting and proper that we do this, but it remains our solemn obligation that we honor these dead and all who have served this nation in uniform. That is the reason why gathering here in the Gettysburg National Cemetery and sounding taps each summer evening is so meaningful, important, and necessary. 100 Nights of Taps has become embedded in our hearts through the hard work of Wendy Allen and the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania, along with Superintendent Sims and the National Park Service, Taps for Veterans, and other wonderful groups. The magnificent buglers from across the nation under the masterful direction of Yare Villanueva, and through the dedicated participation by you and your families and friends. By your presence, it is clear that you appreciate Abraham Lincoln's admonition, a nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. I commend those of you who brought your children here, so the sights and sounds of this tradition take root in them. The sacrifice of those buried here was for our children. The torch of patriotism must never be extinguished. Tonight you are passing that torch, that gift, to the next generation. I say to my fellow veterans and service members, you have done your duty. You have answered the call. You have kept us safe. And for that, we thank you. And to our Gold Star families, you will forever carry bittersweet memories and words. Words cannot adequately express our sorrow or even begin to acknowledge the debt we owe. The hole in your heart will never be completely filled. But know that we will always honor the service and sacrifice of your loved ones. Tonight we stand together, side by side, related not by creed or color or gender, but by nationality, as American brothers and sisters, bound by a belief that this American experiment is worth defending as we continually strive for Mr. Lincoln's more perfect union. Put another way, using the powerful words of Colonel Joshua Chamberlain, it's the idea that we all have value, you and me. Chamberlain concluded, what we're all fighting for, in the end, is each other. I will conclude with the words of the psalmist. God be gracious to us and bless us, and make your face shine on us as a nation. Make us strong, but peaceful. Make us just, and also merciful. Make us a beacon of freedom. And I will add, make us never forget those brave American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who laid down their lives that others might live. Rest in peace, brave soldiers. Day is done. And on this Memorial Day, may God bless the souls of our departed veterans, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Our heart, our soul, our spirits. And you know, it particular, the bugle call of taps, those 24 notes. To every military member, they hear it on their very first night of basic training. You know, you can remember that awful first night, I know, for this guy. And they'll hear it for the last time on their last military assignment on a base. And then they'll hear it for the rest of their life as they attend ceremonies like this, or a funeral, or a memorial service. It is those 24 notes, first sounded by a bugler who was here at Gettysburg during those 3 days, Oliver Wilcox Norton. It's that call that touches our heart, touches the soul. But more importantly, it's the buglers that perform that. I like to say in the military, for 60 seconds, a bugler has the most important job in the military, sounding those notes. And today especially is a very important day for buglers in that they're all over the country. They've been sounding the call at ceremonies throughout our great nation. Today at 3 o'clock local time, we had the Taps Across America, which was not only buglers but also other instruments playing those 24 notes. We had thousands of people involved with this program, and I'm just so honored to be part of that. You know, I'm honored to be with these great players. You know, without their assistance in doing this, we can't succeed. With it, we can't fail. So I'm very honored to stand on the shoulders of some great musicians to play those 24 notes. And you'll hear that in just a few minutes as we conclude today's program. I hope that you come back and see our program every night. Now let me put in a plug also for the Taps Across America today. You'll see a lot of it on the news tonight. And if you get a chance, go down to the World War I Memorial. There's only one other place that has a bugler that plays taps consistently every day, and that's the World War I Memorial in Washington, D.C. It's about 2 blocks from the White House. For 2 years now, we've been every single night playing taps. And they got the inspiration to do that from Wendy Allen. Can you believe that? They heard about this program up here and Wendy's desire to bring it here after going to Belgium and hearing the last post bugle call being played. And they've now been doing that for 38,000 consecutive days. So we might catch up to it soon. But it's because of that we have this program. It's because of that we have the program down at the World War I Memorial. And I'm happy to announce that next week, on June 8th, I have to make sure I get this correct, we will have as distinguished visitors several of those buglers from Belgium. They're on a tour of the United States. They're going to be visiting New York. The next stop is here in Gettysburg, and then on to Washington, D.C. And we want to make sure that they come here and sound the last post. So please mark that in your calendar. It's Wednesday, June 8th, 7th. Thank you. My notes got lost. Thank you so much for the correction there. But please, well, come to 7th, come to 8th too, come to 9th, come every night, okay? But please come back so that we can do 3 things that we as buglers do. We honor, we reflect, and we remember in those 24 notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yori. Finally, for this evening's closing remarks, it is both my pleasure and honor to introduce my friend, Wendy Ellen, who also happens to be the president of the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania and the founder of 100 Nights of Taps Gettysburg. Not only is Wendy the founder, she continues to be our leader, providing the direction, the dedication, the inspiration for the continuation of this program. It wouldn't exist without Wendy. So Wendy Ellen.
Thank you, John. And on behalf of the Lincoln Fellowship, its members, its esteemed board, thank you for joining us at this opening ceremony of 100 Nights of TAPS Gettysburg. I would like to once again thank Michelle Crowell, retired Lieutenant General Christopher Burney, Wayne Hill, Harper Jane Lusky for being here tonight. And thank you, John Tuscan, for emceeing the ceremony. I want to thank the Gettysburg National Military Park, Superintendent Sims, Ranger Christopher Gwynn, and Ranger Pam Neal, for all the amazing Rangers who join us throughout the summer for their continued support and sponsorship. I would also like to thank the incomparable Yari Villanueva, representing TAPS for Veterans, for sharing his expertise and talents for this program. Thank you, Yari. And I'd like to thank the Gettysburg Licensed Battlefield Guides, who begin each evening with their expert guided tours of Gettysburg National Cemetery prior to our program. Thank you. Founded 85 years ago, the Fellowship promotes the legacy and memory of President Abraham Lincoln, the Gettysburg Address, and the dedication and history of Gettysburg National Cemetery through our educational events and programs. The Fellowship is the lead sponsor and organizer of the annual Dedication Day program on November 19th. I am pleased to announce this year's Dedication Day ceremony will include Ms. Susan Eisenhower, who will be our keynote speaker. Actor Graham Sibley will present the Gettysburg Address. Mr. Sibley starred in the History Channel's Abraham Lincoln's miniseries. Scholars Doris Kearns Goodwin and Harold Holzer will also be joining us on the rostrum to make a few remarks. Inviting Ms. Eisenhower to be our keynote speaker underscores our commitment to honor this 60th anniversary of the Centennial Dedication Day ceremony in 1963, when General Eisenhower gave the keynote address. We are also planning a tribute to opera singer and civil rights pioneer Marian Anderson, who performed at the invitation of General Eisenhower. Finally, I'd like to thank the incredible corps of Fellowship members who volunteer their entire summer for this TAPS program. Sandy Tuscan, Amy Woodis, Ron Parashow, Elaine Henderson, Ken Kime, Sharon Kime. We've roped Scott Burkett right here, Susan Paddock, and Dr. Ashley Lusky. We meet here in Gettysburg National Cemetery, so we shall never forget our brave American veterans. We remain steadfast in our dedication to the great unfinished work which those who fought here, as well as in many foreign lands, so nobly advanced. And we honor that they gave the last full measure of devotion, so that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a really nice ceremony. Like I said, a little longer than the normal one, which is usually just a few words and then taps, but it was very nice and I enjoyed myself, and I hope that you do as well. I know for me, this was very different. Normally I've heard, taps done, you have the single bugler and then you have the single bugler in the background somewhere where you don't know that they're there playing for the lost soul. This time it was different. They had a whole bunch of buglers. They had one main one and then all the different ones in the back just playing off of each other, next, next, next. And I've never experienced anything like that before. That was definitely different and a little bit more moving. Well, again, I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, thanks for watching. Oh wait, Sean's not here, and happy hunting.
Let us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting.